This is not a get rich quick thing, but it is a way to make really good money working with a lot of people that will love you and helping a lot of people who, hey, I said again, could never afford you. Even, it's always been a very well into the six-figure business since I started it 13 years ago. Anyone out there who's a wellness professional or a fitness coach or a leadership person who has done a free challenge, I have a free challenge to get people on their list. You can sell that. That is what you package up and sell to an organization. And you do not do it for free. We do nothing for free.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. This is Leah Ray, and I'm super excited to have with us Marcy Morrison. Marcy, why don't you tell our audience what you're all about? Because you do some really cool stuff.
All right. Well, thank you, Leah. It's so exciting to finally talk to you and meet you here in this your great podcast, which I listen to and love. So I own a corporate wellness consulting company. And that means that I go into organizations and help those organizations get their employees healthy and well and keep them healthy and well. So I go in and I try to work with it's called employee population, and I find out where their needs are. So I'll go through their claims history and aggregate data to see if they have a lot of diabetes, if they have a lot of mental health issues, and not meaning, just meaning stress. They'll answer a lot of questions that we put out about how much stress are you under, people who have overweight and obesity issues, people with high blood pressure, people with heart disease. So we can go through and I can go through and tailor a program specifically for that group that will actually move the needle on their healthcare costs and their employee health. So I have been doing that for 15 years. And then I started a few years ago because every time I talk about what I do, people ask me, how did you get into that? How did you do that? How did you get into that? Do you have any special qualifications? And so I started helping other health and wellness professionals and basically leadership professionals as well get their programs and services into corporations because there's so much opportunity out there. And I think people just don't understand really how to get into it, what's involved. And I always want to tell them, yeah, you can do it. You're already set. You just got to know who to talk to and how to create the programs. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool conversation to have because number one, organizations, companies, big organizations, they have budgets for this. They're looking for this. They see the value for this. And there's so many people, so many coaches and people who have amazing expertise that could truly serve those people, but they're struggling on selling direct to client, or the type of people they want to work with can't afford the type of services that they provide. And so I think this is a really interesting conversation to have about how to get into the corporate space, because I think it would solve a lot of problems for a lot of people and be, a win-win-win. How many wins there'd be, but there'd be a lot of wins.
I say that all the time. Win-win-win. One of the things you mentioned, which they will love when they get into it, is I help them get paid for doing what they love. And they also get to help people who could otherwise never afford them. So because those employee wellness programs are available to all employees. And in my groups, all employees and their family members. So that person who's your garbage collector or the bus driver who drives your kids around now gets this high level, incredible coaching program that you deliver They could never afford it before. You're not giving away your programs because and I know how many coaches have given away their stuff just because they feel like, oh, I want to get started, or this person really needs it. So now you're able to do that and get paid and do good things for people who really need you but could otherwise not afford you. That is what lights me up. That's what made me really start focusing on helping other people get into the industry that I've loved for so long, because that's what gets me up every morning, even when it's getting tough, because I've worked with 150,000 employees to date. And there are times when I have like 250 emails. I'm thinking, oh, there's a lot. But then I remember the garbage collector who needs my stuff. So that I hope win, 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 win. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm curious in getting into the corporate space, because in my mind, when I've talked to people who want to do that, often they're like brand new health coaches or whatever, and they've got a really big passion, but I advise them, get some one-on-one clients, get some data of what you can, like the improvements you can help people create a pitch essentially to bring to corporate. But I've never actually done it. So that's just my gut feeling, then the advice that I give people, because that's not our space. So is that on the right track if someone's new, or what would you actually say there?
So I would say you can either way. I mean, if you're brand new, that gives you that brand new niche, right? And the one thing I always tell people in corporate wellness is you're going to niche up. Everyone tells you niche down, niche down, niche down, and get this avatar that's so specific. A woman in her 50s or in her 40s with 3 kids and 2 jobs and doesn't like to cook. And ours is now your niche is employees and their family members. So if you're brand new, this gives you a really great opportunity to work with all kinds of different people. You're working with men, you're working with women, you're working with families, you're working with older employees, younger employees. So you become very, very creative. So I do think that even new coaches can do this because they haven't gotten so specific in their niche quite yet, that they may find their niche in this corporate space. And I try very hard to just say, be confident. You can do this without having years and years and years of, doing this behind you. You don't have to have years and years of experience or all of the credentials behind your name. You can start this because really, as long as you are doing one thing, this is the thing I would say the most, focusing on the higher risk employees. So you're not, if you're a fitness person going in, you're not doing like burpees day one if you're showing them, or doing some high level gut health program until you understand who the employees are who are going to come to you. But as a long-winded answer to your question, yes, it's great to have a little experience first, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Okay, good. That's interesting. So how do you even do, I wouldn't even know where to start, right? Where does someone who they know that that's a good place for them and they want to do it, but that's all they got. So walk me through what that looks like.
This is everyone who comes to me, by the way. So I say this, I know you're where you live in Florida. There are businesses everywhere around you. Small businesses, big businesses. Don't go in imagining you're going to work with Google, because that's not going to happen. When you work with these enormous companies, gatekeeper after gatekeeper after decision maker, money, we have budget here, budget there. That will frustrate you and you will quit before you start. If you work with smaller organizations, let's just say under 500 employees or even under 200 employees, or listen, if you find like a real estate office or a law firm, they make a lot of money and they're very small offices. So sometimes you can start right there and make a huge difference in that employee population, because you're not just working with the lawyers or the agents, you're working with all the administrative staff that goes with that. So, think local first, think smaller second. And then what you're going to do is come up with some ideas that some workshops that you could deliver to an organization like that. So I have a document that I'm going to give to the people, all of your people, so that they can see. I have 20 ideas for corporate workshops. I've delivered every single one of them. You come up with 3 or 4 of those, and you reach out to that, usually HR director. If they don't, most companies will have an HR director. Law is complicated, so employment law, so they'll have somebody, or their benefits person, the person who delivers their insurance. And you speak to them and you tell them, I'm a health coach, I'm a fitness professional, I'm a leadership professional, and I have a program that helps your employees with blank. And I would love to be able to deliver a workshop for your employees. And here's what I deliver. And then remember, when you're talking about what you're delivering, actionable information. So not just a bunch of blurbing it out. What can they do right after this program to start getting healthy? And I promise you, if you deliver a good program, they're going to want you back again and again and again. Because it's hard to find people who your employees like. It's a really lovely service that they provide to their employees. So if they like you, you're going to be invited back.
So I have, being that this isn't my space at all, I have no idea, like cost, or like if someone is brand new, they have no idea what to charge, or so what does that look like?
Well, I say this every time, and if anyone has been in my world before, they know that is a very complicated question, and there's no easy answer for that. Because obviously, if you get lucky and you get a huge organization and you're delivering the program. So I've worked with a company that had 45,000 employees. I charge differently for that than I do for the companies that I work with that have under 250 employees. So obviously it's going to depend. Right now, I am purchasing from one of the big insurance carriers who kind of pushes this down my throat a little bit, webinars that are about 45 minutes long, and I pay anywhere between $500 and $750 per. So that's pretty good, because remember this, once you make one of those webinars, sometimes they're live on Zoom. Oftentimes I tell people just record it with a little intro that makes it very specific to that organization, but the same thing is coming behind that intro, and you can sell that again and again and again. And then you can go back to that organization and say, they really love this. They asked me some questions, and this is what they want to see next. And you can keep getting those corporate clients to re-engage with you and make this into a much longer term engagement.
So is the general model then to do one-off workshops initially, and then kind of move it into maybe a longer program that you're running with them? Is that typically what you want to do?
I recommend that. I run the whole program for these organizations. So I learn over the years what they really like and what they will participate in. And the word is engagement. So how to get engagement. So if you're delivering something to an organization, use the word engagement. I know it sounds like, well, it's participation. Just use the word engagement. Trust me. Because that's what they're looking for. The word engagement comes up 30 times in every board meeting I sit in. So just use that word. I have a whole list of terminology that you need to use in this industry. But I like to start off with a workshop. Introduce yourself with that workshop. Introduce your magic. Introduce what you can do. Introduce the foreshadowing of, look what we could do if we did this in just one 45-minute, 1 hour workshop. Imagine what it would look like if I were able to work with your employees long term. So starting with a workshop, really nail that workshop. Do that one really well. Make it a little interactive if you're doing it either in person or on Zoom, or make it just fun and interesting. Not just a bunch of boring stats and, here's what you eat. Make it fun. Laugh at yourself, because they want to see real people. They've seen enough plug and play, go on to your insurance carrier's website and take this little program, get 10 points for it. I want to see, and I buy a lot of this stuff. I want to see something different and fun. And I want my employees to feel like, wow, they're really fun and cool. I want to engage with them more. And then, by the way, those employees may want to hire you outside of the organization as well to work with them. So that's another option. There are a lot of ways to make money from what you're doing with organizations while you're helping these people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. So, okay, we'll start with a workshop, over deliver, crush it, be able to bring in and then work on a program. You could potentially use it as an entry point for one-off clients as well. That's brilliant.
That remember this, and I always say this too, because all of anyone out there who's a wellness professional or a fitness coach or a leadership person who has done a free challenge. I have a free challenge to get people on their list. You can sell that. That is what you package up and sell to an organization. And you do not do it for free. We do nothing for free. Listen, if you have a really good one and they say, we would like you to come into our health fair and do a quick conversation about what you do, that's fine. But it's not going to get you more engagement with an organization because you do it for free, because we're not expecting you to do it for free. They're not doing their stuff for free. So you want to charge for it, not overcharge for it, but you want to charge for it. Like you said, nail it. And then, by the way, you can start charging more after you've gotten the flow, after you understand how all this works. You can raise your prices. I wouldn't say this is not a get rich quick thing, but it is a way to make really good money working with a lot of people that will love you and helping a lot of people who, hey, I said again, could never afford you.
Yeah, I think, and that's the part that I love so much about this, because if you look at the health crisis in our country in particular, but I'm sure throughout the world, like it's the people who at the lower income level it's so need help. And yeah, so this is a really great way to serve.
Healthcare inequity is a problem I'm working with a lot of people outside of what I do to try to solve. I mean, I'm in these big healthcare groups that are healthcare best practices, and how do we change that? Because I feel like I've been in this for so long and I have a decent voice in it that we have to change that. So that's one of the things I work on. And you'll see it when you go in there. People will see it when they go into an organization, that there will be people, the janitor who cleans up after maybe your kids at school. School districts are great, that will say, oh, am I allowed to come to this program? And they just never understand that they're really allowed to go there. And you just have to make it clear that they're invited, and maybe their family members are invited. So that's where you're going to start changing that narrative on healthcare inequity.
Okay. I was just thinking, because I'm putting myself into a new health coach's world, and they're looking at doing this and developing a workshop, and they want to nail it. They want to crush it. Do you suggest like doing a practice workshop at like their church or something to have an audience to participate, to gauge how to get people to interact? Or
some of the simplest things I have done, like food label workshops. Simple. It sounds so simple. Everyone knows how to read a food label. No, they don't. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes of a food label. And there are so many, I'm going to create a little cheat sheet on this as well, because I learned like food policy and the things that go into allowing you to say, you know, what's added sugar, what's not added sugar, all the things that are chemicals and what they really are, and how that food labels don't have to say if there's MSG in it, but some people have a very strong reaction to MSG. So something as simple as that. And then what I've done that people love is I will bring all the different cups from like a Starbucks macchiato and like a ragu, like pasta sauce, ketchup, McDonald's sweet tea, and I bring a big container of sugar. And you can even do this online. I mean, over Zoom. And you ask the participants, or you just pretend, if you're doing a recording, you can just say, someone needs to stop me when I've had enough sugar in this cup to equal how many are in this Starbucks macchiato. Something very interactive, or something that's going to make them go, oh my gosh. Something's very visual that they can take away. Oh my goodness. I did not know there were 12 teaspoons of sugar in that spaghetti sauce that I pulled out of a jar. You know, you're trying to watch sugar and you're like, I didn't need a candy bar. Yeah, you did. So So those types of things, they seem simple, so powerful sometimes, or just listen, you have to know who your audience is. If you're working with a bunch of really high level executives, you're going to do something a little bit higher level, like maybe gut health and gut brain connection. But if you're working with, say, a group of manufacturing people, I'll also do programs on, I'll go to like Trader Joe's, and I'll buy one of their prepared soups, and I'll bring it in and talk to them about health and wellness, and I'll make it healthy right in front of them, adding tons of beans, tons of vegetables, tons of no sodium added tomatoes that are crushed up. I mean, like kale, right in front of them. I make it healthy, and then I serve it to them if I'm in person, or I just show them via video. These are simple things that any health coach can do that gets that engagement to start, because they're going to start talking about, that was so cool, I loved that session. And then you can go into much deeper programs, like really much, gut health is not where I want you to start. Elimination diets, no. But you can start with, do a program on dispelling the myths of exercise and nutrition for weight management. Something as simple as you could imagine, because then what you want to do is say, now, what do you want to see more of next time? They say, well, we loved this. You go back to that HR director and say, hey, they wanted more of this. So then you do session number 2, and then do that again, session number 3, and you have a really long-term engagement.
Yeah, I love that. So what I'm hearing from what you are talking about, and pouring the sugar and making the things, and in marketing terms, it's sort of a pattern interrupt, right? It's where they're expecting you to sit there with a boring PowerPoint and drone on while they, have to listen because their boss told them to, or whatever, right? And it's essentially a pattern interrupt, like what we see in social media content, in marketing content, where something happens that's unexpected. And so it's an in-person live workshop version of that. And it allows you to really get people out of that, just droning on, it's a PowerPoint or whatever sort of thing. And this is real. She's a person. This is fun. I see how this is applicable to me. I think that's really smart.
And I think the real people part is important, because there are a lot of things online that even if you're doing something that is recorded course, record a video that speaks to that organization. So it's, hey, ABC Corporation, it's Marcy. So excited to be here with you guys. I know you're in, northern New England. It's got to be getting nice out there. So it's a good time to start getting outside and exercising. But for right now, let's talk about blah. And then you say so. And then in the course following, you're going to see some, and it's the same course following, but as the intro is different for every group, you will be loved. They will think that you made that entire course just for them. And all you're doing is just making it personal to them. So yes, you're that pattern interrupt. I love that. I've never even thought about that, but it is so true. Make it different from whatever anyone else is doing. You can listen. If you're not comfortable being, full of personality and like at first, that's fine. Do something that will give them a really quick win. You could teach meal planning. You could teach emptying out your pantry without even being in their home. Just show them things that are in their pantry that would likely, you could probably change out. Eat this, not that. I just did a big program from that. I had to pay $650 for someone to tell us to eat potatoes instead of French fries. Yeah. I said, you know what? I'm going to do this myself next time. But, what I am a little bit forced to, I've fought that. So now I'm hiring people who I know who've come into my course. I hire them to do things, but it is unbelievable what's out there and how much is out there. I mean, I will get a list of 300 options. No joke. One of them was something about how to make chocolate work for your health. How do you make a 1-hour webinar out of that? But whatever. I get that across my desk. So you get creative, but make it in my opinion, really meaningful and something they can take away and say, wow.
So, okay. So you said to get started, keep it simple, but pack a little punch with the presentation, start local. How do you what do those conversations really look like? Are you start with letters? Do you start calling people? Do you knock on doors? What does that look like?
But here's the best thing to do. Think about this. How many people do you have, Leah, who are clients of yours, who maybe are, especially in the health and wellness industry, who are clients of yours? They all work somewhere, right? Most work somewhere. So you'll go in and you'll say, I'm starting to get into corporate wellness. And I know you probably like to have more of me that you don't have to pay for. So can you introduce me to your HR director or your benefits person so I can talk about some programs that I'd like to deliver to your company? Those people who love you will be running to their HR. Well, please bring her in. This will be so great. Please bring him in. They're so wonderful for me. That's how I find all of my fitness people, my yoga people, my, cooking demo people. It's my health coach people when I work with an organization that I don't live in the area, some of my clients are far away from me. So I work with the employees who love these people and then I vet them out. But if you have a client who loves working with you and they work somewhere, that's your warm lead right there. That's your way in that door. So you're not an absolute cold calling person, which is fine. I've done it, but really helps to have someone from within that organization say, I want to introduce you to my health coach or my personal trainer or my yoga person.
So what are some of the biggest successes and proudest moments that you've seen or you've had for your clients?
Just the ones who create exactly what I tell them to do and do exactly what I tell them to do. And they call me and say, wait a minute, I did exactly what you told me to do, and I'm doing a program for this organization. It's I think when people think about getting into corporate, they think it's so much more complicated and it's so much more high level and so much more button up, which is not. And I think they also believe they have to be so highly credentialed and have to be a fully registered dietitian. And you don't, because you're not prescribing food, you're not prescribing diets. You're showing them how to do something healthy and how to stay healthy, which helps the organization. So I think people a lot of times make it seem more difficult. In their head, it's really difficult. And all I can say is every organization is different. Everyone I've worked with is different. And you'll have to figure out what the culture is like and what the employees are like. And once you do that, it's easier to flow into what they do. And by the way, say that when you're going in the door. Say, I have some programs that I'd love to deliver, but I also want to see what your employees like and see what they resonate with. Because listen, I tell this story all the time. When I first went, and this is 14 years ago when I first started doing corporate wellness in big settings. So I would be in an auditorium doing a big PowerPoint on nutrition. This kind of wellness programs were fairly new. And at one point I was talking about it's how important it is to have whole foods and whole food. I kept talking about whole foods. And one of the guys in the front said, I know I'm going to sound really stupid, but what's a whole food? And I said, you know what? You're not, that's not on you. That's on me. I'm speaking about, it's like, if you're a mechanic, I don't understand half the things you're going to talk about. So I learned very quickly, you've got to see who that audience is. If they're a bunch of really high level executives, I'm fairly sure they know a lot about health and wellness, or they think they do. They have some concept about paleo or whatever it is that they're doing, and they're committed to it. But it's different when you're working with people who are in manufacturing, who might not have the same level of nutrition or fitness literacy or just wellness literacy in general. So, you say that to the organization. You say, listen, I would love to see what your employees are interested in. And I like to meet them where they are. So, you're not going to be talking about all organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised food to a bunch of people who can't afford sunscreen when they're, you know what I mean? So that it's very important that you understand who your audience is so that you don't make them feel bad. make them feel good. You make them feel like, okay, I can do this from where they are starting.
Yeah, I could see that being a challenge. I know, like, I'm super into health and wellness, and I'm very opinionated, and I have a certain, like, so I know I'm not a health coach, thankfully, so I don't have to deal with that. But being able to slim it down and just do the one step at a time sort of mentality is going to be really important.
Defeated before they start. If they feel like I'll never be able to go to, and then that second time I was talking about Whole Food, one of the guys said, I can't afford to go to Whole Foods. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the store. I'm talking about what Whole Food is. But if they feel like, oh, I can never get there, so why even bother? I'm going to die young no matter what. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that. I can't afford to live long. So always understand that not everybody is making a 7-figure income, and that some of the people I've worked with are making $15, $18 an hour, like basically a wage. And we need to meet them where they are and talk to them about what they can do.
Yeah, so important, so important. Okay, so I think this is awesome opportunity for all of the online health coaches that want to branch out, want to help people who, are not in their current demographic to be able to help to the level that you're comfortable. Just brag on yourself for a minute. What have you been able to do with your corporate wellness business?
Well, I can say that even, it's always been a very well into the 6-figure business since I started it 13 years ago, because truly organizations are willing to pay for health and wellness for their employees. So I am working on some new things that will scale this business up this year. And I've had an enormous amount of interest in it. But remember this when you're thinking about pricing. And so when I go in and name a price of what I charge an organization to work with them, and just so you know, I work with many organizations. I have sort of a membership model. So when they come in, before I used to, when I was making maybe $200,000 a year, I could only work with one organization. It was a big organization, but that was it. It was basically a job, even though I was a consultant. Now I have put up those boundaries and said, this is how I work with you. This is how I work. I can't tell you how many people have asked me to work with them in the last year for them and be an employee. And I don't do that. And sometimes it's like, oh, that's pretty good. It wouldn't be easier than what I'm doing. Because, as an entrepreneur, we always think it's going to be so much easier. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's Saturday at 6. But the good news is we love what we're doing for the most part. So it's different. But it's starting out, if you can start getting some organizations on your side and working with you, and you can create some long-term engagements. And if you want to work with one, you could easily say you want to be the wellness coordinator, wellness director. Those are at least 75 to 150, maybe depending on the size of the company. I think Google's wellness director makes $500,000 a year, something like that. But if you want to just do it on a one-off, boy, this could be a really great extra income for you to make another $40,000 or $50,000 a year just doing courses that you're recording, or just taking those challenges that you've created for free to get people into your stuff, repackage it, don't do the big sell at the end, and sell it to an organization. I promise everyone out there, you already have all the content you need. How much content are people creating? You already have it. Now we're going to sell it to organizations. So really the sky's the limit, depending upon what you want to do. This year is going to be my big year to scale, because I'm creating an app for wellness, and it's going to have to do with a lot of drugs that are coming into the market now. And listen, when you're working in wellness, you're also trying to help them with their healthcare costs, which is the second. It's the best quote I've heard is the CEO from Starbucks said years ago, before healthcare costs got so out of control, I realized I needed to have a wellness program when I realized I was paying, I think it was 2 or 3 times for healthcare what I pay for coffee. So that's just so remember that when you're saying this is what I charge, and I think sometimes I feel like am I comfortable saying this? But if you just help one person prevent a heart attack, which could cost that organization between $1 and $5 million, your numbers seem very low. So I always relate it to that. Remember, you're working to help them manage their healthcare costs, health insurance costs. So you can think of it like that so that you don't get stumped. You know how, and I'm sure you teach everyone in your world this, how to be confident about what you're charging and how to really, it's not about, oh, I spent 2 hours on this program. It's what is it going to do for that organization in the long run for real?
Yeah. The value of the result and the transformation.
That's it. And you, and then imagine how many transformations you can have within an organization. A lot. Because not only just keep this in mind, it's not only the employees, it's their family members. You can create this legacy of health and change it from that legacy of disease to this legacy of health. And you really can't, but go in thinking like that, because we've got to change the health of our country. We're number 40 now in healthy nations, just above Mexico. How can that be? But so we've got to change that. And all the health coaches out there need to help.
Yes, no, absolutely. I love it. So what would be one like lasting tip or piece of advice that you would want to leave with a health coach who's you've perked to their interest, if you will, with this whole corporate wellness thing?
Create 4 workshops, outlines only. You don't have to have the whole thing done because like I said, it might change the first day you walk in that door and realize nobody understands a thing about what you're talking about. Create an outline. Then create just a basic little brochure that has those things on them, the 4 workshops in Canva. Create it and start reaching out to organizations. And if you can email them, say, hey, here are 4 workshops that I've been delivering right now. You don't have to have delivered them. Don't worry about it. Sometimes we got to do a little fake it till you make it. I fake. You have no idea. I mean, you have no idea. The only reason I'm here is because I faked it until I made it. So there's a little bit of that. Like the more and more I'm doing corporate wellness, the more I see that these are the workshops that people really like. And then maybe have 3 workshops in 1 4-week program or something like that. And there you've got it. You've got a little wellness program on 1 page. It's really, and all you have to do is come up and they'll have a document that I have 20 ideas, and all they'll have to do is put them down and start reaching out and using those warm contacts like they have their clients, friends, family members, and just start reaching out and start getting in there. If you can go in person and you feel comfortable doing that, it's always really fun because that energy you feel from them, they feel from you. It's great. And then you can start saying, listen, we had too many people. I'm going to start doing it on Zoom so that we can record it. And those people who couldn't attend can attend eventually, so, but that was the biggest thing I could leave them is just create a little document, come up with 3 or 4 ideas that you could deliver and start delivering them.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And we will have the 20 idea giveaway. We'll have the link for that in the show notes in the description of this video. If they want to check you out or connect with you, where should they head?
The best place to go is I have a free Facebook group, Corporate Coaches Collaborative. So there's a link to it on the document. So I do this all the time. I do a lot of podcasts, and I'll take a piece out like this that was a great question. What can you leave them with? So that they'll get tons of information in there. And I also have a course, and I release it every now and then. I just got approved for NASM and AFA. So all the fitness people can get CEUs for taking my course now, which is great. But they can start, if they're just curious, they can start in the Corporate Coaches Collaborative Facebook group and go from there. And when I release the course again in the next month or so, if they feel guided to do that, then they can join.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, Marcy. I love what you're doing. I think it's gonna be really helpful for so many people, the coaches, and then in effect, the ripple, through all of the people that they're going to be able to touch. So I really appreciate you and all the wisdom you shared today.
Thank you so much for having me, Leah. I really appreciate you having me as well.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.